Good morning, my lovely students. So, here I have brought another interesting chapter on biology, which is chapter 6 Tissue, class 9 Science Biosynally Man. Now, this is the part 1, is the introduction of entire chapter. Part 2 and part 3, we will discuss about all the topics in detail with all figures required. Now, students, this chapter is quite difficult, but at the same time, it is very informative because it talks about the tissue which are there in our body. We must know what all tissues do we have. Let's begin. You'll have fun. So, we are starting with the chapter tissue. Now, in class 7 and 8, you have already studied about the cell, which is the basic structural and the functional unit of any body. If it is so giant or even if it is so small and microscopic, they all are made up of cells. Now, this all cells unite together, combine together, and they form tissues. So, if you asked what is tissue, you would say that tissue is a group of cells having similar structural and function. Now, in particular organ, there will be a particular type of tissues which are made up of cells, group of cells. In plants and animal, group of cells called tissues carry out specific functions. For example, in human being, the cell of muscular tissue contract and relax and help in the movement, and that is the way we are able to run and ride and do all chores. In plants, the cells of vascular tissue conduct the water and food from one part of the plant to the other part of body. That is the transportation of water and translocation of food. You can see the types of muscle tissues I have shown in the figure here. Smooth muscles, skeleton muscles, and cardiac muscles. You can find interrelated disc in the cardiac muscles. You can also find the plant tissues like xylem and phloem in the figure. Now, xylem is required for the transportation of water in the plant, which is made up of perforated plates and tracheoids. Whereas phloem is the specialized tissue present in the plant cells for the translocation of food. That means transporting food from one place to the another. This helps in the storing food. As you all know that food is produced in the leaf, but it is stored in the various parts of body with the help of phloem tissues. It is made of sieve plate and the companion cells. Difference between plants and animal tissues. So plant tissues, they do not move from place to place. Most of the cells and the tissues in the plant provide mechanical support. That means they provide the strength. So most of the tissue consists of dead cells because they provide mechanical support and strength to the plants. The growth of plants takes place only in some regions. So the plants have tissues called the meristematic tissues which divide themselves and help in the growth, and the permanent tissues do not divide at all. Generally, meristematic tissues are found in the tip of the shoot of the plant, so they grow taller. Animal tissues move from one place to the other and need more energy than the plants. So, most cells and the tissues in the animals are living cells. The growth of animals is more uniform, so animals do not have the separate dividing and non-dividing cells. You have already studied about the meiosis and mitosis type of cell division in our previous class. Animals have the organs having specialized functions, like respiratory organs are lungs, diaphragm, and windpipe. Reproductive organs are ovaries and testes. Similarly, we have a proper control and coordination system, including organs like brain and nervous system. So in animals, you have a specialized organs. For those specialized organs, they are made up of specialized tissues, and those tissues are made up of cells. So the organs have specialized tissues and the cells in terms of animal tissues. Now plant tissues, they are majorly two types. They are meristematic tissues and the permanent tissues. So meristematic tissues, they are further divided into three categories. They are apical meristematic tissue, intercalary meristematic tissues, and lateral meristematic tissues. Permanent tissues, they are of further two types, that is simple permanent tissue and the complex permanent tissues. Now you have to just remember this flow chart. Once you remember this flow chart, you can easily write about the type of tissue and let me tell you, this is asked in examination, that write a note on plant tissues. So you can just write down the flow chart and explain in detail. Now meristematic tissues are divided into apical, intercalary and lateral. Now name itself suggests apical, that means they are at the top. Intercalary, that means they are between two nodes, and lateral, that means they are the later part of the plants. Now permanent tissues have the simple permanent, parenchyma, collenchyma and sclerenchyma, whereas complex tissues are like xylem and phloem that we just discussed. They are specialized tissues in the plant which are responsible for the transportation of water as well as translocation of water. Now meristematic tissues, let's discuss all of this in detail. Now this is the first video, it's all about the introductory video. This is not easy chapter, so I have made more than one videos on this chapter, so you just go through these videos and PPTs thoroughly twice, thrice, 4 times, so you will remember all the scientific words. Who are aspiring to take bio in class 11 and class 12, so they would have this chapter in much more detail in those time. Meristematic tissues are found in the growing regions of plants like the tips of root, stem and the branches. They divide continuously and help in the growth of plant. There are 3 types. Apical meristematic tissue, they are present in the tips of stem and the roots. They help in the growth of stems and the root. Lateral meristematic tissues are present in the sides of stem. They help in the increase of the girth, that is the width of the plant, of that stem and root. Suppose some stem is thick or thin, that totally depends on the presence of lateral meristematic tissues. Intercalary meristematic tissues are present at the base of the leaves, internodes which help in the growth of those parts of the leaves. You can see the figure section, these are sections are shown. Now suppose if we are in the school, I would have shown this meristematic tissues using microscope, using permanent slides we have for 11th and 12th bio labs. But for coming time, we will definitely take you to the labs and we will see all this arrangement of the tissues in the lab using microscope. Permanent tissue are formed from the meristematic tissue. They do not divide and have permanent shape and size. They differentiate into different types of permanent tissues. There are mainly 2 types, simple permanent and the complex permanent tissues. Now simple permanent tissues are made up of one type of cell. There are 3 types of called parenchyma, collenchyma and sclerenchyma. Now let me tell you, just write this and remember the spelling. If spellings are wrong, we would deduct your mark. Parenchyma, collenchyma and sclerenchyma. Parenchyma consists of loosely packed thin wall cells having more intercellular space. Some parenchyma cells in leaves contain chloroplast that is responsible for the photosynthesis and prepare the food. So that is the site for the food preparations with the help of parenchyma. Some parenchyma cells have the large air cavities like air bubbles which help the plant to float on the water. So just imagine the plants which floats on the water like lilies and the lotus leaf. They float on water because they have a airy sac like structures in those parenchymas. Some parenchyma cells of roots and stem store water and the minerals. Now collenchymas. They consist of elongated that means longer, sharper cells having less intercellular space and thicker at the corners. They give flexibility. Now they have to be thicker at the corners and they are less with the intercellular space. That means they can be placed in any of the positions. They can get position in any place in the leaf, give flexibility and allow easy bending of different parts like stem and leaf. You can easily bend some parts of plant because of the collenchyma. They give the flexibility to the plant. They also give the mechanical support to the plant. Some plants you cannot easily break or you cannot easily damage because of the collenchyma. Sclerenchyma consists of long, narrow, dead, thick walled cells. The cell walls contain lignin and chemical substance which act like cement and harden them. It gives the strength and the hardness to the plant. So mostly sclerenchyma work for the providing strength as well as the mechanical support to the plant. हाँ बोल. These are the clear pictures of all kind of cells: parenchyma, collenchyma, sclerenchyma. Generally, biologist or botanist studies these figures, and so they can identify the various type of tissues are present in that particular plants. You can see the collenchymas. Further images of collenchyma, they are mostly responsible for providing flexibility to the plant. You can see the collenchyma tissues in the various other figures. You can see the cross section as well as longitudinal sections, how they are arranged. Parenchyma tissue, collenchyma tissue and the sclerenchyma tissues. Now permanent fundamental tissues, simple tissues composed of single type of cell. Now parenchyma, specialized cells within this primary walls. Photosynthesis, secretion and the storage is the major function. Collenchyma, they are elongated cells with the uneven primary walls living at the maturity. They supports in the leaf and the stem. And sclerenchyma, they are elongated with the very thick secondary walls and dead at the maturity. They are majorly providing support to the plant. Now let's talk about the complex permanent tissues, which are made up of more than one type of cells. There are two types of complex tissues. They are xylem and phloem. They are called vascular or conducting tissues. Now why are they called vascular bundles? Because they are mainly working for the transportation. Now when I'll transport water, I'll use a word transportation of water. But in terms of transportation of food, I'll use a keyword which is called translocation, because the location of that stored food is changed within the plant. Remember, water can only travel from the against gravity, from down to up, but food can travel anywhere because it is produced in the leaves and it can store in entire plant anywhere in any parts of the plant. It could be in the form of fruit, in form of stem, root, shoot, or in form of anything. It can be stored. So that is the word translocation. Now remember, first say food, that is phloem. So phloem tissues are responsible for transportation of food and the xylem tissues are responsible for the transportation of water. Now xylem consists of tracheids, vessels, xylem, parenchyma, xylem fibers. The tracheids and the vessels help to transport water and minerals from roots to all parts of plant. Xylem parenchyma stores food and fibers help in the support. Similarly, phloem consists of sieve tubes, companion cells, phloem parenchyma and phloem fibers. This sieve tubes and the companion cells transport food from the leaves to all parts of plant. Now phloem parenchyma stored food and fibers to help the support. You can see the figure of xylem and its tracheids, how they look. Phloem and their sieve tubes, how they are looking. Animal tissues are majorly four main types. They are epithelial tissues, muscular tissues, connective tissues and the nervous tissues. Epithelial tissues are of different types. They are squamous, columnar, cuboidal and glandular. They are named after where they are present. Suppose they are present in the glands, various glands like liver and pancreas, they are called the glandular epithelial animal tissues. Muscular tissues, of course, they are present in the muscles. They are of three types: straight, unstraighted and the cardiac. Now cardiac muscle tissues are present in the heart, so they are called the cardiac tissues. Connective tissues are of different types. They are the blood, RBC, that is the blood connective tissues, bones, ligaments. Ligaments are the present between the bones and the muscles. They are joining your bones with your muscles. You might have heard the word ligament injury during the sports practice. Tendons, cartilage. Cartilage is mainly present between two bones that will avoid the friction between two bones. areoles, and adipose. Adipose is mainly for the storage of the fat below your skin. Nervous tissues, they are made up of neurons, consist of nerve cells which are known as neurons. So animal tissues, you just remember this flow chart. Now write plant and animal tissues flow chart in your notebook in the beginning of your lesson, so you remember all these names and their functions in detail. Let's talk about the epithelial tissues. Epithelial tissue is a covering or the protective tissue in an animal. It forms the outer covering like skin, outer covering of organs, inner lining of blood vessels, lungs, esophagus, which is also called the food pipe, etc. It protects the body and controls the movement of materials between the body and surrounding between parts. So mainly it is working for the protection of one organ to the another organ. Now the cells are closely arranged and have the fibrous basement membrane in the epithelial tissues. Now squamous epithelial tissues consist of the layer of thin flat cells. It is present in the linings of the blood vessels, lungs, mouth and esophagus. So mainly squamous epithelial tissues you will find in the digestive organs. These tissues are stratified squamous tissues. Columnar epithelial tissues consist of tall pillar-like cells. It is present in the walls of intestine. You know that how long our intestines are. The small intestine goes up to 7 to 9 meters. The columnar epithelial tissues in the respiratory tracts has the hair-like projection called cilia, of course for the exchange of gases. This tissue is called the ciliated columnar epithelial tissues. Now, do you realize why you need high percentage for opting for medical or medicine? Because you have to remember all this medical terminology and their functions in detail. So becoming a doctor is a really big task and it requires hard work. Now cuboidal epithelial tissues consist of own shape of cells having a basement membrane. It forms the lining of kidneys, tubules and the ducts of salivary glands which are present in your mouth. You know that saliva. Like whenever you eat your liking food, your favorite food, your mouth waters because of the salivary gland secrete saliva. So there this cuboidal epithelial tissues are present. Glandular epithelial tissues, they are the folded inwards form of multicellular glands which secretes the substances. These tissues are known as glandular epithelial tissues because they are present in the various glands. Now these are all the images of types of epithelium: simple cuboidal, simple columnar. You can see they are found in the column, so they are called simple columnar, cuboidal because they are with the shape of cubes, squamous they are in the shape of quads, stratified, pseudo-stratified columnar tissues. So these are the various examples of epithelial tissues. These are the majorly found in the animals, so they are under categorized animal tissues. Muscular tissues, they are the connective tissue help in the movement of the body. It consists of elongated cells called muscle fibers. It contains protein called contractile protein which contracts and relax and help in the movement. Now for your growth and development you require more protein because you need to build your muscles. So to build this muscle tissues, your diet must have the proteins in your food. Now muscles which can move under our will are called voluntary muscles. But the muscles which are not under your control and move by their own are called involuntary muscles. So muscles which do not move under our will and our wish are called the involuntary muscles. So they are further divided into 3 categories. Striated muscles are voluntary muscles having light and dark striations. The cells are long, cylindrical and are multinucleated. They are also called the skeletal muscles because they are attached to the bones. They help in the voluntary movements of our body. Unstriated muscles, smooth muscles are involuntary muscles. Now remember, striated muscles are voluntary, smooth muscles or the unstriated muscles are involuntary muscles having no striations. The cells are long, spindle shaped, spindle like nails, just like a sharper nails, spindles, and are uninucleated. That means single nuclear you will find there. They are present in the alimentary canal, that is a digestive system, blood vessels, bronchi of lungs, iris of our eyes, and they help in the involuntary movements. The third is the cardiac muscles. You can easily find out that they must be present in the cardiac tissues. They are involuntary muscles having faint striations. The cells are long, cylindrical and branched, multinucleated. That means more than one nucleus present in them. They are present in the heart and helps in the contraction and the relaxation of heart. That is the pumping of heart. You can see the types of muscles and the figures where exactly they are found. You can find the smooth muscles, cardiac muscles with the multi-nucleus, skeleton muscles. Let's talk about the connective tissues. Connective tissues connects and joins the different parts of body together. The cells of connective tissues are loosely packed and the space between the cells are filled with the jelly-like matrix. First is blood. Blood contains a fluid matrix which is known as plasma, which contains RBCs, red blood cells, WBC, white blood cells, and the platelets. The blood transport gases, digested food, hormones and waste materials through it. Bones is a hard and strong tissue. It consists of cells which are embedded in the hard matrix containing calcium and phosphorus compounds. Bones form the framework for the body. Our posture is highly depending upon the bone structures and supports the body and the main organs. Ligaments are the flexible tissues which joins bones together and help in the movement. Tendons are the fibrous tissues which join muscles to bones and help in the movements. Areolar tissues fill the spaces between skin and the muscles inside the organs and around the blood vessels, etc. It helps to repair the tissues. Adipose tissues is found below the skin and between internal organs. It contains the fats and help to store the fats. So this all are examples of connective tissues. You can find the different structures of all these connective tissues, how they look, white blood cells, plasma, platelets. Now that you can see the neutrophils, eosinophils, basophils, erythrocytes, which are also called RBCs, platelets, monocytes and the lymphocytes. Ligaments and tendons. You can see that how they are connecting your muscles and the bones together. Areolar tissues, adipose tissues, cartilage tissues and the bone tissues. They are the pictures of them. Now let's talk about the last type of animal tissue, which is the nervous tissues. Now that nervous tissues are made up of neurons. This is the only cell which is visible through the naked eyes. So nervous tissue helps to carry message from one part of the body to the other part. So whatever we are able to do, think, act, memorize, realize, react, sense, this all is dependent on the neurons and the nervous system. If somebody's nervous system stop working, that person, we say that it has gone in the coma. It cannot respond and react to the situations. It is found in the brain, spinal cord and nerves. It consists of the nerve cells called neurons. You have to draw the neuron in your notebook, detailed structure of neuron with the proper labeling. Nerve cell has the cell body containing nucleus, which is called cytoplasm. It has hair-like structures called dendrites and the long part called axons having nerve endings. The axon has the protective covering called myelin sheath, which is made up of proteins, so no nerve impulse just escape. Sometime it might happen, you go to a room, you enter a room and you forget that why you had entered that room. Okay, why you have called somebody. So that is the reason, because your myelin sheath have stopped working properly. So your neurons, their nerve impulses lost their connections. So the neurons are joined together to form the nerve fibers. The junction between these two neurons is called the synapses, which is responsible for carrying the message from one neuron to the another neuron. So this was all about the introduction to this chapter. I hope you have understood the introduction. Now we'll talk about the detail in each and every cell and each and every tissues in our coming part. I hope you have enjoyed. Kindly draw plant tissues and animal tissues flow chart and the structure of neuron in your notebook. If possible, collect all the types of tissues picture, possibly color picture, get them print out and stick to your classwork. See you for the next part. Bye bye. Take care.